think it's great for America. I mean, I guess like living in Chicago or just moving here, I get the perspective that it's already such a busy town and there's a lot going on, and
we're kind of a world-class city, and it's time to kind of open ourselves up and show the world what we can do.
And welcome back to Political Update. I'm Paul Lisnick. We're talking about the Olympics, the possibility of them coming to Chicago. And this segment, we're going to raise the question, should they come to Chicago? Joining me again, Mayor Gerald Bennett, Mayor of Palos Hills, and co-chair of the Mayor's Coordinating Committee for the 2016 Olympics. And now joining us is Alderman Tony Preckwinkle of the 4th Ward in the city of Chicago. Having been on the city council for 18 years, you are very involved and have some thoughts about the Olympics coming here. And also joining Patricia Hill, who is the convener of the Chicago Olympic Human Rights Project and also the executive director of the African American Police League and a professor at Northeastern University on Justice Studies. Professor, welcome here as well. Alderman, let me come to you and open up with this segment. If the Olympics come here, it means a lot for your ward and development. What does it mean?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for not just my ward, but for the city. First of all, we've agreed in December to purchase the Michael Reese Hospital site, 37 acres on the lakefront, to build the Olympic Village and have some land for development left over. So that whole prospect of developing that beautiful triangular site right next to McCormick Place, I think is a great one for the city of Chicago. That's at the north end of my ward. At the south end of my ward, just across the border, will be the Olympic Stadium. So my ward is kind of in the center of Olympic activity.
And talk about the importance of, when it comes to your ward, you get those kind of developments. What does it mean for the people who live in that? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, all of a sudden I got all these people in my way that weren't here before.
Well, one of the things that's great that happened in the last month is that the City Council Finance Committee blessed a document signed by Laura Healy as President and Chief Executive Officer of the Olympic 2016 Bid Committee with Terry Peterson and Michael Scott, who are co-chairs of the Outreach Committee. They committed to 20% affordable housing in the residual units that are left over after the Olympics and pushing toward 30%. They agreed to do 30% minority business enterprise, 10% women business enterprise participation in Olympic contracts. And they also agreed that they'd push for local hiring. Those in a 1-mile radius of the venues will have hiring preferences. So I think there are a number of critical issues that were addressed in that agreement that speak to the community benefits of the Olympics being in the city and, in particular, in my case, on the south side.
All right, Patricia Hill, I'm guessing you're chomping at that bit because I know you're aware of that ordinance that passed the City Council and your response to it.
Well, first of all, our concern in terms of the Olympics coming to Chicago, the United States, is really couched around human rights violations. For example, under the International Human Rights Standards, Article 6, it says that every human being shall have the right to be protected against being arbitrarily displaced from his or her home or place of habitual residence. And it also goes on to say that individuals are to be told if they're going to be displaced. And so what we've learned through ordinance, through the City Council and otherwise, is that, for example, there was an ordinance passed of eminent domain, where people would be moved if their residences are in the path of Olympic construction or what have you. And that's not really discussing it. That's just saying you're going to move and possibly maybe get the market value for your home. But these are some of the things that we're concerned about in terms of human rights. And the Olympics does have a history of doing this. And we're concerned that Chicago, of entering into cities where the cities in hopes or in the process of hosting the Olympics do violate the rights of human rights of their citizens. United States being a democratic society, unlike China, we participated in the Human Rights Torch Relay in San Francisco, China. People would say, oh no, United States is not like China where they were torturing the people in Beijing. That was one of torture. We have some of those same issues here. We have the housing piece, which is a violation. We also have torture. We have the 20 years of torture by John Burge of 200 black men in the police department in Chicago. So these things have not been resolved. They haven't been corrected. They haven't gotten justice. He hasn't been brought to justice. He's being indicted for something else, not for the torture. So we're just concerned about the fact that a lot of the emphasis seems to be placed on the council focusing mainly on finances. That's a big concern because, of course, who says we can afford it? For 80 years, there hasn't been a profit. And we're really concerned also that financially, even though that's not a human rights violation, but there seems to be something to discuss that financially, if there's no profit and public money has to be put into it, and the citizens out there public money, why aren't they being considered?
All right, let's talk about a couple of those things. Let's start on what I think are the more global issues first. I mean, this notion of the human rights violations, I mean, it's deep stuff and it's far-reaching stuff, and almost I can see some Olympic supporters just going, do we really have to mix that up with what is an effort to just bring this event and a lot of fun? By the way, you're a former almost Olympian yourself, right?
Qualified for the Olympic trials.
Okay, so this is not about the Olympics itself,
No.
because you're almost Olympian yourself. But let me come, Mayor, any response to that?
Well, I think in general, I mentioned earlier, I'm chairman of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, and I think your concern, or the concern expressed by not only yourself or other organizations about human rights is important to this entire metropolitan area. We live in one of the most diverse metropolitan areas possibly in the world, and I think the future, where we go forward from here, is real critical. And I think our organization, in working not only in land planning and transportation, but looking at areas of housing, of diversity, is real critical in the choices that we're going to make going forward. We hope to release a plan within about a year, 2010, talking about the next 40 years in the metropolitan area. And those are the kind of discussions we're having with organizations like your organization and people all around the metropolitan area about how can we address those types of aspects of the quality of life that we all need to live in the future, a sustainable future.
And Mayor, before I get you, Alderman, just briefly, and so that's a discussion, but the question is, will that be a discussion with the resolution or just an agreement to talk while these things just proceed?
Well, and I understand the concern, and I don't think tomorrow it's going to be resolved or next week, and the tie into the Olympics, I clearly understand, but we aren't like China, we aren't like some of the other countries around the world. I think we have a great president who is also a resident of the city, resident of the neighborhood, who I have great faith in working on those types of concerns and moving forward in a positive way to try to resolve them.
Alderman, I mean, there is such a thing as the power of eminent domain for a city. I mean, the cities do have the right to move people out of their homes, and Pat's not questioning the power of the city to do it, but maybe questioning whether or not it's an appropriate thing to do. What's your thought about that displacement issue?
I have great respect for Pat, but she's mistaken. The council never approved eminent domain for any Olympic projects, and actually the Olympic Committee has explicitly said that they're not going to use eminent domain. In fact, we purchased the Michael Reese site, which is uninhabited. There are no people who live on the Michael Reese site, to build the Olympic Village because it would involve no displacement. It would take no one's home. The hospital was failing and is about to go bankrupt, or is bankrupt and is about to close. And we're going to build the village on a site which was formerly institutional use. In contrast to other cities, and Pat's right, in other places, they wiped out whole neighborhoods and built the Olympic Village. But that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to build it on the site which was formerly the Michael Reese Hospital campus.
So there won't be displacement?
No, there's not going to be displacement there. Now, there's an argument that as a result of appreciating property values, there might be changes in neighborhoods that result in displacement. And actually, that's something we're looking at closely to try to figure out how we can minimize that potential impact. But there's no immediate displacement as a result of the construction of the village, and no use of eminent domain.
Okay.
With all due respect, she's referring only to the village. There are many venues that are going to be constructed. One is a stadium in Washington Park. There's an auditorium with a swimming piece in Douglas Park. And based on the size and all the things that happen around these venues, there will be displacement. There has always been displacement, and I just don't understand why Chicago consistently tells its constituents in the world that there will not be displacement.
Well, let's just get, will there be displacement?
Well, in the first place, the natatorium has been moved to Washington Park rather than Douglas Park. So both the stadium and the natatorium, the swimming facility, will be in Washington Park.
Makes it bigger.
But we're using park facilities. We're not building these things in neighborhoods. We're using park facilities. We're using McCormick Place. We're using, as I said, Michael Reese site for the Olympic Village. So what we have to worry about is the potential for, as I said, appreciating property values and displacement on the perimeter of these facilities or stadia or whatever, not direct displacement. And that, as I said, that's a quite different thing. You're not moving people out to build Olympic venues. You're trying to worry about what happens to surrounding communities as Olympic venues come to them.
All right, a little complex. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this and also talk about the cost, because there is some evidence to suggest that these things are not profit centers. We'll talk about that when we come back after these words.
And you know, it's really not about the sports and all that. The opposition is that Chicago isn't ready for the Olympics. There are other issues that need to be addressed.
it's going to be a great opportunity for the city. I think it's a positive idea to have them here. Yeah.